Yo, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Your boy Kyle back here on the Fantasy Headliners. And we've got some more 2021 NFL Draft talk coming up here. One of my favorite times of the season, grinding that tape, taking a look at the next batch of talent that will be coming into the NFL. It's a great time of the year. And one thing that we want to make sure that we do, because there's no off season here at the Fantasy Headliners, and you know that, it's to get you prepared for these names coming into the league so you can have a head start on keeping an eye out on them. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about a few of my under the radar prospects that aren't really being talked about as much as maybe some of the other guys at their respected position. But this is going to be a little bit of a teaser. That's what we like to do here on this channel when it comes to NFL Draft Talk. But we've expanded. We've got a brand new college football channel called Headliner U. My boy Chris Chouse leading the charge over there. They do a lot of in-depth scouting reports and breakdowns of players. So make sure when this video is over, you go into the description down below, click on that Headliner U link, head over there, and hit that subscribe button. So much good content. You don't want to miss out on any of it. So the first player that I want to talk about here in this video is going to be a boy out of the University of Michigan that, honestly, I loved his game for quite some time now. It's Nico Collins. Nico Collins, oh my gosh. Listen, if he would have played in 2021, I think 2020, we'd be hearing a lot more talk about him and the 2021 draft class. But something I've talked about with that recency bias from last season is that a lot of people that didn't see these guys play last year have kind of forgotten about them. And Nico Collins is one of those players. And we'll talk about another one here in a minute. With Nico Collins, his pros. This dude goes and gets the ball. He is one of the better contested wide receivers in college football when he was on the field. Even a guy like Shea Patterson, who, let's just face it, is an awful quarterback, couldn't bring Nico Collins down. Shea was able to throw the ball up, and Nico would go and get it a majority of the time. And bringing up Shea Patterson, maybe it reminds you of a couple of other wide receivers that kind of had to deal with the same issue. Quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks that just didn't get the job done. DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Coincidence that they also had to play with Shea Patterson? Nico Collins, reminds me a little bit of these guys. He's not going to be as good. He's not going to have the draft capital. But it's some of the same things that really we look at it and we say, oh, his college production just, it wasn't that good. But his college production was brought down a lot by the quarterbacks that he had to deal with. And that's what happened to DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. Now, draft capital still ended up being there for the most part. These are guys that just when they got out there and they finally got to show out during the combine and during pro days and things like that, they looked a lot better. Nico Collins, that's what he's dealing with right now. He's dealing with, number one, taking 2020 off, not having a whole lot of great college film because he didn't have a really good quarterback. He's trying to make up for that with a lot of those other intangibles and measurements that really could propel him, hopefully, into about the third round. I'm thinking the third round is where we'll see Collins go. Also, he's got a second gear. He doesn't really look like it. I mean, he doesn't look like the type of guy that's going to be a speed wide receiver, and he's not. But once he gets the football, he's got another gear that he can kind of dig deep and grab that allows him to pull away from some of these defensive backs. Where does he need to develop, though? Some areas of improvement. It's going to be the route tree. He's got to have a stronger route tree. While he was at Michigan, he ran a lot of just deep routes. That's what they did. They threw the ball to him deep. He's got to work on that a little bit. He's got to become a little bit more versatile in his route tree and be able to win all over the field to really make that impact. Whoever ends up taking him, they're going to end up using him as an outside guy, somebody that's going to run some of these deep routes, a guy that's going to go up and get the football, a red zone type target. But if he grows that route tree, he's a guy that could end up becoming a serviceable wide receiver too for his team. Another guy that really hasn't been talked about, and it absolutely baffles me, is Chubba Hubbard from Oklahoma State. There were people last year that were arguing had he left and come out of college that he was going to fight for Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins as one of the top running backs in last year's draft class. I mean, Chubba Hubbard was looked at as being kind of that 1A, B, C, D when you look at a CEH, when you looked at a Jonathan Taylor, a J.K. Dobbins. He was right up there with those guys. He takes 2021 off. He sits out the year, and now people just aren't talking about him anymore. And in fact, he's really fallen down a lot of draft boards. I mean, there's a lot of people who look at him more as a running back 7, running back 8 in this draft class, and I don't understand it. What are some of his pros? He has got just an exceptionally strong lower half. The guy, when he gets wrapped up, those legs keep turning and turning and turning and turning, and they will continue to gain ground and break away from some of those tackles. If you try to wrap him up high, his lower body strength is going to be able to pull away and get you off him. He's got that strength to just move away. If you try to wrap him up on the lower end, you better get him wrapped up good, because again, he can get out a lot of those tackles. Another thing too, he's patient. I've seen some areas of improvement from other places, some other mock drafts, different scouting reports. Some people say that he just doesn't have the best vision in the world. So every once in a while, you will see where Chubba Hubbard will end up missing maybe a hole or two that you think, man, if he would have hit that hole, he would have had a lot bigger play. But I didn't see it enough for it to really concern me that much. With his patience, it allows him to kind of sit back and read these things and let them develop a little bit more. I don't agree with the vision or the patience thing. He's a guy that he's not Le'Veon Bell in any way, shape, or form, but you can kind of see some of that patience that Bell has when he gets the ball. He's not exploding at the line right away. He's getting it, he's reading it, he sees that hole, and then he works towards it. Maybe a little bit, we talk about that strong lower half. Maybe we'd like to see a little bit more burst in terms of the acceleration, where he accelerates through those holes a little bit quicker. That part maybe we can get a little bit better at, and maybe that's why it looks like maybe his vision isn't that good. But he's got that patience in the backfield to look for those holes to develop. And if he lands on a team that has a good offensive line that can create those holes, he's going to find himself some nice running lanes. An area of improvement, it's that third down play. Chubba Hubbard is not one of the best pass blockers, and he is not a great receiving back. He is definitely a guy who, when he comes into the league, he's going to be more of a 1 and 2 down back. That's going to limit some of his upside. But he would work great in a tandem. I mean, obviously he's not going to Indianapolis, right? Because they have Jonathan Taylor. But if he were to work with a guy like Nyheim Hines, like a pass-catching back like that, Chris Thompson when he was healthy, a J.D. McKissick like we saw this past year in Washington. If he were to work with some sort of a pass-catching back like that, they would form a pretty good duo where Chubba Hubbard is taking a lot of that 1 and 2 down work, and then if you got to get guys in there on 3rd and long and other pass situations, then yes. Then at that point they come in. But Chubba Hubbard will come in, and he's going to be a serviceable NFL running back because he has the patience. He has enough pros in his game to really be able to be a guy to put up some yards and really be a serviceable player. Now, a guy I don't really see anybody talking about, Ramondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma. This is a guy that a couple of buddies turned me on to Ramondre Stevenson, okay? They said, dude, take a look at the tape. Just watch this guy play. Yeah, he can play, baby. This guy can play. Get out of his way because he is going to run you the F over. Ramondre Stevenson is a very powerful running back, but one of the things that I like about him is he's able to change up his running style. Just when you think that he's going to lower that shoulder and absolutely bury you to the ground, he's going to hit you with a nice, quick juke move. He's going to throw a hand out there and stiff arm you. He's got a little, for as big as he is, he's got some agility. He can move around and he can do some things on the football field. Really the biggest issue with Ramondre Stevenson, and one of the reasons why he's not really being talked about a whole lot, off-field issues. I mean, this was a guy that was suspended at one point for smoking marijuana. I mean, he's had some things that have kept him off the field when he should have been on the field a lot more, and he's got to stay in shape. Like I said, he's definitely going to be a bigger running back. He is going to be a guy in the league where, yes, very much so, he's a 1 and 2 down type player, a guy that's going to run you over short yardage situations, goal line situations, things like that. Right now at 5'11.5, he's coming in at about 227 pounds. He's a little bit lower and a little bit stockier. Najee Harris, he's coming in at 230 pounds, but he's got a few more inches on him. I mean, he's 6'2". So he's a lot stockier than what a lot of these other running backs in this draft class are. He's got that power. He's going to be able to make those things work, but he's not going to be able to let that get out of control. If he can get down and play around 220, I think that's going to be a really good playing weight for him. And of course, like I mentioned, he's got to stay away from trouble off the field. Jonathan Adams Jr. out of Arkansas State. Raise your hand in the comments if you've heard about this guy. I'm liking him as kind of a late round pick. This is a guy that I definitely think is not going to come into the league and make an impact right away. But maybe after a year or two, he's definitely a guy that's going to do some damage as a wide receiver in the NFL. What are his pros? 50-50 balls, those balls where you just throw them up and you hope your receiver can get it. Jonathan Adams Jr. turns those into 70-30 balls. This guy absolutely bullies opposing defenders. He will push you around. He will go up and get the football. He is an absolute bully on the offensive side of the ball, and he is not scared or shies away from any type of contact. He will fight with you for that ball. When it goes up in the air, he makes it a priority that only him comes down with it, and he does a very good job of that. For as good of a job as he does with that, he might be a little bit one-dimensional right now. Coming out of Arkansas State, a little bit of a smaller school. You play when you play against some of that talent that Arkansas State does, you don't really get a chance to see him go up against top-shelf cornerbacks. So he becomes a little bit one-dimensional because when you win those routes so often, you can just throw a ball up to a guy. Because it works, you just do it. You don't really worry about what else comes with it. You just do it. So he's a little bit one-dimensional right now. He's going to have to work on some things. He's going to be a little bit of a project. He's not going to come in and help a team right away, but definitely a year or two after he has a chance to be in a system, after he has a chance to get a little bit better, learn more of the route tree, become a better overall wide receiver, he's going to help some team out. Let's talk about some non-sexy positions, as I like to call them. Let's head to the offensive line and talk about Dillon Radunz. That's what I'm going to call him from now on. Dillon Radunz from North Dakota State University, an offensive tackle out of there. Trey Lance isn't the only guy coming out of North Dakota State that should be talked about a little bit more. Dillon Radunz, his pros, he is a run game menace. Holy crap. If you watch his film and watch him just run over guys, run over defenders in the running game, he is out there, baby. He's got that mindset. When he pulls and he goes after somebody, he wants to make a hole for his running back to be able to hit and pick up yardage. This guy bullies people. He throws them to the ground. He will come and get you. One of the areas of improvement, though, he's going to have to build up his frame a little bit. When he gets to the NFL, some people think that he could end up moving inside and being a guard. I don't mind that at all for Radunz. Why? I just said it. He's great in the run game. If you've got some of these schemes where you've got the guard pulling out, he's a guy that is nimble enough and has got enough twitch in his hips and able to move quick enough that he can pull out. And again, because he's so good in the run game, he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to open up holes, get into that second level, and open that up for the running backs. So he's got to work on building up his frame just a little bit. Maybe putting on a little bit more strength, putting on a little bit more weight if he's going to end up staying at tackle. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a left tackle. Maybe he moves to right tackle. I think he could be really, really good if he moves inside and plays guard, though. Some of the top tier tackles that they're talking about right now, Radunz is not spoken about enough, but I think come draft day, more than likely probably going to be a little bit closer to being a second round pick. He's going to make some team very, very happy. Final guy to talk about out of Alabama. Now, this is weird, right? We're talking about an Alabama player being under the radar. When are Alabama players ever under the radar? But for Dylan Moses, he's not really being talked about right now because you've got some really good linebackers in this class. And that is really pushing the other linebackers down right now. This guy may be one of the hardest hitting defenders in the 2021 draft class. I mean, when you watch Dylan Moses on tape, he will absolutely steamroll anybody that gets in his way. His pursuit is so good. I mean, he is another one of these linebackers that can get out into the open field and will pursue guys all over the place. He projects as an outside linebacker at the NFL level. He's going to be able to pursue guys, any type of wide receiver that's running some routes, kind of in the shallow end of the field, some out routes, things of that nature. They aren't going into the secondary. He's going to be able to pursue some guys coming out of the backfield. He's going to be able to go after these tight ends that are running those short routes. He's going to be able to get after all those guys. If you're running to his side of the field with a running back, he's going to be able to track down a majority of the running backs in the NFL as well. His pursuit is top notch. And again, his hitting power, he's 100% all the time. Now, you go into an interview, right? Like the one of the famous Michael Scott quotes when David Wallace asks him what his weaknesses are. Okay, he talks about his strengths, and he goes, "Well, my strengths are actually my weaknesses." That holds true for Dylan Moses. I talk about his pursuit. I talk about his hitting power. That tends to be an area that he needs to improve on because he's always going so hard, so fast, that sometimes his patience isn't really there. I mean, he might be a guy that if he does see a certain play develop, he's 100% heading that way right away. But if he catches you off guard, or if you catch him off guard, or if he doesn't read it correctly, you're going to catch him going way too quick, and you're going to be able to get around him, figure something out with that. He's going to miss a tackle. He's so quick to pursue and so quick to try and lay down the huge hit that you're going to be able to, maybe lay a little bit of a juke move on him. He might not break down very well on some of those tackles. You get out in front of another player, and sometimes you got to break down and really kind of watch what they do and make that move with them in order to win that tackle. But with Moses, I mean, he's not really breaking down at times. He is going so hard so quickly that next thing you know, he's just on top of you. So some of those more shifty players in the NFL that can make you miss with some juke moves and spin moves, he's going to be able to do that. They're going to be able to do that with Dylan Moses. He's going to overrun them, and that's going to cause some issues. That's definitely an area that he's going to have to work on and make sure that he's breaking down a little bit more at the NFL level. There you have it. Some under-the-radar draft prospects here for the 2021 NFL Draft. About a month away at this point. Well, actually a little bit more than a month away at this point. We're getting a lot closer. Teams are in the middle of pro days. We're heading into free agency for the NFL, which will make things a lot more clear for the draft class. Really excited for that. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you appreciate that content, first and foremost, hit that like button. It does a lot for our videos here on YouTube. Make sure you comment down below as well. Who's an under-the-radar draft prospect that maybe you are talking about and somebody else isn't? Let us know here at the Fantasy Headliners. And as always, if you're new here to Headliner Nation, hit that subscribe button. Stick around. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, hit that link down below to head to Headliner U. And sign up there as well. Subscribe to that channel so you're catching all of our in-depth college football analysis all year round. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in. Stay safe. Stay healthy. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.